Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to Living the Dream with Curveball, a podcast where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I am joined by a special guest. His name is Shawn Anderson. He is an author, a speaker. He has created national movements. He has created adventures. He is someone that you would call a motivational guru. And I know a lot of people say that, but once you hear his amazing story and everything that he's doing, you will believe that he is a true motivational guru. So, Shawn, thank you so much for joining me today.
Ooh, threw me a little curveball with that introduction there, Curtis. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Why don't you start off just by giving the audience a little bit of background about yourself?
Okay, I gotcha. Well, I really bill myself as a pretty ordinary guy, except for one thing. I believe in living an extraordinary life. And when we have that kind of vision, when we have that kind of dream, and we put action behind living that dream every day, we create extraordinary moments for ourselves. And I've written 7 books. I've visited 50 countries. I've walked across 7. I pedaled a bike across the United States solo twice, ocean to ocean. And at age 58, I believe that everything I've done is going to pale in comparison to what is still to be done, right?
Right. So let's first get into your books. Tell us about your books, but because your books has made #1 on Amazon several times. Tell us what category and tell us what kind of books they are.
Well, I believe that the 2 things that have affected my life more than anything are the people that I have met and the books that I have read. And as a young guy trying to find his way in the world, I read every single motivational and inspirational book I could about great men and great women and their stories about how they became who they did, how they did what they became. And later, as I started to get a little success under my wings, I wanted to share my messages and what I believed got me to where I am with people too. And so since then, as I've said, I've written 7 books. They're all in the motivational self-help genre. And the thing that makes perhaps my most recent books a little bit different is I just don't give you 10 ways to success, 10 things to do to become a millionaire. I don't write like that. I write stories, and inside those hidden stories are lessons, and you can apply the lesson as you want to. And I believe that I try to entertain with my writing and at the same time inspire and motivate with my writing.
So you visited several countries, as you mentioned. Tell us why you decided to visit those countries. What was the best one you went to, and what is one that you're looking to go to that you haven't made it to yet?
Well, I've created adventures in 50 countries. And like I said, I've walked across 7 of them. My longest walk was 750 miles around Shikoku, Japan, where I had the privilege of going on this pilgrimage trek, visiting 88 Buddhist temples, some of them over 1,200 years old. And I'd be walking through the jungle, and all of a sudden, there it was. Right when I was my most defeated or tired or didn't think I could make it anymore, there's this beautiful, beautiful temple. My fastest walk was across the country of Spain. I walked 550 miles in 27 days, which is just an average little, almost over 20 miles a day, almost 21 miles a day. And, it puts everything that I love in one thing. I love travel. I love meeting new people. I love seeing something every day that I've never seen. I love creating moments for myself. I love doing things that I didn't think I could do. I love all of those. And so that's why I do what I do. And I think I've learned too that every time that I do something that I push myself a little bit more, a little bit harder, I become back a little more refined and a little bit more passionate and purposeful about my own life. And so every year I try to plan one of these great, what I call axe sharpening adventures, just like a lumberjack is not able to bust down on the piece of wood with a dull axe. The more that his axe is sharpened, the more that he is able to accomplish. I believe people are the same way. The more they sharpen their own axes, the sharper they will be as they walk through life.
So what kind of health or preparation do you have to plan and pace for when you're walking across 7 countries? What kind of, I guess, atmosphere or, the elements?
Mm. Well, I'm always in training. As I've said, I'm 58, and as one gets older, we know that our bodies start to change. And so, I'm exercising every single day. And one of the things that you'll do if you see me out there is I'm the guy carrying the little small book backpack on his back, but that book backpack is still loaded with 20 pounds a day just because I've got to get my legs and my heart and my body used to carrying that weight. So I'm always in training. Now, as I walk across these countries, oh wow, it's sometimes you never know what's going to happen. I remember I was in my first walk going across Spain. I knew it was going to rain that day, and so I tried to leave early and beat the rain on this one particular day. And I was walking through this valley, and the rain started to come, and it felt almost as if there were 100 water hoses coming down at me at one time. And again, remember, this was the very first time I'd walked, and I was walking on this dirt road, and the dirt road, when it mixed with the powerful rain water coming down, the road would turn to a really funky mud. And every step that I took on this road, my foot would sink further and further down, and I'd pull that one up, and it'd be so heavy with the mud. And I remember that very first adventure, that very first one, I'm wondering, why the heck am I doing this? Why am I out here in the middle of the rain? There were no trees to run and hide under. There were no shelters to go hide. And I had to walk through this valley in the rain. And right then, that very first hike, in the very worst circumstance that I could imagine, I came to this one realization that this is what I was meant to do. I was meant to keep pushing myself. I was meant to keep overcoming. And I kind of heard this voice inside my head that just said, say thank you. I said, say thank you. Say thank you for it raining. Say thank you that I can walk so slow. Say thank you that I'm stuck. Yeah, just say thank you. And that very first moment that I just said thank you. Thank you for this experience. Thank you for this adventure that I've never gone on before. And then everything else just became a lot lighter. Everything in life became a lot lighter. And so it was that very first hard walk where I learned to say thank you, that I then knew that as I walk through life, that every time we say thank you for the good things and the bad things, life becomes much more easier to walk through.
So how do you decide what countries you're going to? This is a 2-part question. How do you decide what kind of adventure you're going to do next? And what is your next big adventure that you got planned?
Well, I've walked across countries where many people have walked across them, and they have paths across these countries that, to go from town A to town B to town C to town D to get from one side of the country to the other. Then I've also walked across countries like Ireland where I had to use Google Maps to make my own route. And I remember as I walk across Ireland, I'm on all these windy, really small roads, and it was super dangerous when there was no other people that had walked before you, because man, I kept running into cars coming sharp around turns, and I was hugging the side of the road as hard as I could because the cars couldn't see me. And so, I like to choose a country that there is a route that's already been somewhat established, that people have gone before me. I might be an adventurer, but I'm not a pioneer. And so I definitely like to walk something that's been walked before. There's a new walk across the country of Costa Rica that's come out. It's called the Camino de Costa Rica. And I guess it's a couple 100 miles or so, which isn't too bad. And it goes through the jungles there. And that's a walk that I would never have tried to do on my own without other people having walked. But it's a walk I'm more curious to do next because there is a way from one side of that country to the other.
Let's talk about your national movement. You have created Extra Mile Day, and let's talk about that and any other national movements that you have planned.
Well, it was back in 2009, and I was pedaling a bike solo across the United States. It was a time that was really rough in America. A lot of people had been losing their jobs, and banks were closing, and it was really a desperate time. And a lot of people were beginning to lose hope. They started looking at their boss, saying, "What are you going to do to make sure that I have a job and we have a company?" They looked to the government and were saying, "What are you going to do to make sure that there's a program to help me when I fall?" And I felt that people started losing the general premise that if you want to really change your life, you don't look to your boss or the government or your spouse or your neighbor, but you look at the man or that woman in the mirror and you ask, "What are you doing to make sure that things will be good in the future?" And so I wanted to remind people that it's not about just doing the same thing, but you got to do more if you want more. You have to add more value. You have to go the extra mile. So I created this tour called the Extra Mile America Tour, where this non-bicyclist was going to take his 48-year-old body and he was going to pedal from one ocean to the other ocean, kind of a Forrest Gump symbolic thing. But the power of the tour was that my staff had arranged events in 21 cities across the country with the mayors of those cities, where I had the privilege of interviewing over 200 people who had been identified as having gone the extra mile in life in either creating something amazing or in overcoming a super, super huge challenge. At the end of the tour, I gave away $10,000 of my own money to the stories most inspiring to me. But it was out on that tour that I decided I needed to do something to keep this whole momentum of going the extra mile going. So I came up with the idea of Extra Mile Day. November 1st, 2009 was the very first year of Extra Mile Day. It's where mayors would recognize those going the extra mile in volunteerism and service in their communities. And that first year, I was so happy that 23 mayors across the U.S. were crazy enough to celebrate Extra Mile Day, 23. But sometimes, Curtis, when you apply yourself in a really dramatic way, the big things grow. Extra Mile Days continued each year since then. And from those 23 mayors back in 2009, last year, on November 1st, 2020, there were 512 mayors that declared Extra Mile Day.
And that is a total of 50 states.
Yeah, every single state, some states, tens and tens of cities. And the cool thing about Extra Mile Day is, again, it's about mayors recognizing those that are going the extra mile in their city. So what we've done is we've created a vehicle where people are clapped for and recognized for cool things they're doing. Maybe they're the ones that donated the money for the 4th of July fireworks. Maybe they're the ones that have been making blankets to sell at the PTA raffles for 20 years. Maybe they're the ones that constantly keep showing up for the rest of us, the ones that are overlooked so that we can have a good life, but the ones that are putting in the time, the effort, and the money to make things happen. Those are the people we're recognizing.
If cities want to join on, because if listeners are listening to this and they want to try to get their city involved, how does that happen?
Well, you can go to extramileamerica.org, extramileamerica.org. You can certainly see a list of the 512 participating cities last year. You can see many of the amazing volunteers that each of those cities have recognized. And so you go there, you can follow some links and you can click on and you can find a way to get your city in to participate for sure.
extramileamerica.org. You've reached hundreds of thousands with your speaking. Talk about your speaking tour to the Philippines and talk about the experience of reaching so many people and impacting so many lives with your speaking.
Yeah, I appreciate that question. Thank you, Curtis. I remember it was just on my heart to take the extra mile message, just not into the United States, but to start spreading it around the world, because going the extra mile is something that can change all of our lives. It changes our relationships. It changes on what we can overcome. It changes our financial state. When we go the extra mile, cool things happen. So I decided that, the very first country that I really wanted to start extending this message to was the Philippines. And I remember early on in the Philippines, they said, well, it ain't going to work. It ain't going to fly. No one's going to come and hear you speak. In fact, I received one email that I ended up printing out and then pasting on my door and on my window. And this email said, "You must consider the culture here in the Philippines. No motivational speaker has gathered that number of crowd yet here in this country. Concerts, religious gatherings, even political gatherings can't even sum up that number that you want. A huge crowd here in the Philippines will only gather for a concert of a popular band, actor, or singer." The email goes on. So I was being dissuaded. I was being told, man, what you want to do to speak to 5,000 people in the Philippines, it ain't going to happen, brother. It's impossible. I used that as motivation. I went there, and in 2014, in speaking over a month at every single day over 30 days, I ended up talking to 20,000 people about going the extra mile. So sometimes when people tell us that we can't do it, man, that stuff is wood to my fire. When I'm told that I can't, I just want to do it more, right?
Right. So tell us about the upcoming projects that you have coming up. Any books, any other speaking engagements, any podcasts? Tell us what's going on with you next.
Well, I'm just happy that the world's opening up again. I want to get out there, and I want to get out there and travel. I want to experience the world again. And certainly, I haven't been able to speak at an event for over a year because we just haven't had the event. So I just look forward to opportunities again to go out and connect with people like that. Extra Mile Day is certainly coming up. It takes us 6 months to get that whole thing rolling. So that'll be starting again. That'll happen again November 1st, 2021. We'll definitely hope to get more than 512 cities on board this year. And really my main focus is certainly just pushing that right now. And there's a couple of new books that I'm working on, but nothing that'll be coming out in 2021.
Well, go ahead and I know you threw out the extramileamerica.org, but throw out your contact information, your websites, so people can connect with you and keep up with everything that you're doing.
Certainly. Thank you. Again, shawnanderson.com. And every week I put out a newsletter. It's called Extra Mile Thursdays. And in this newsletter, I just try to tell a motivational story of some kind that pushes or pulls you up the mountain that week if you feel that life has punched you hard and you're down on the ground, and just a way to maybe get up again. This past Thursday was my 484th issue. So I promise to stay consistent. That's 484 Thursdays in a row. And it's free. And again, you can just sign up at shawnanderson.org. My mission in life is to empower 1 million people to lead a more positive, passionate, and purposeful existence. At this time in my life, I care more about the people who I might be able to encourage towards their own goal than I do of certainly ever making $1. It's not my mission. My mission is just to try to leave footprints, and we leave footprints by marking hearts. Oftentimes you'll find my ebooks given away for free online because, again, I just want to spread messages that might inspire or empower people to lead the life that they want to lead. It has nothing to do with trying to benefit myself. I've been blessed and I've been lucky. I grew up being pretty much financially independent on my own since the age of 16. I learned how to create and to build, and I had a couple of good successes. And so my mission in life is just to help other people maybe find their good successes too.
Well, you're definitely on your way. Are you on any social media platforms?
Social media is not my big thing. We do have a fair number of followers on Twitter. I think we have over 30,000 on Twitter. You'll see me post there, regularly, I suppose. But Twitter, Shawn, what is my Twitter handle? Oh, to Shawn Anderson. To Shawn Anderson, as if you're writing a letter to Shawn Anderson on Twitter.
All right. So y'all make sure y'all follow him, keep up with him, and interact and engage with him. Do you have any final thoughts before we close it out?
Well, I do. I understand from your history, you're a man that's overcome much. You are a man that continues to not let anything that stopped you in life stop you in life. And I'm wondering if we took this opportunity to go the extra mile, what's something that you might add to the go the extra mile topic?
Well, I would say keep pushing forward. Sometimes every day is not going to be good. Life is not meant to be all peaches and cream. But what I always do when I'm down, I always look for a pick me up. It could be something small. It could be a joke, or maybe I get more downloads that day than I expected, or maybe a guest that I was trying to get will email me just some kind of pick me up, or some kind of motivation that a person might give you throughout the day. So when you're down, always look for the smallest thing for a pick me up, and don't never underestimate, because just small words of encouragement can go a long way in getting you back on track.
That's right. And I think too, I think one of the secrets that keep me going in life, Curtis, is that, oftentimes people are always looking for a miracle to make their life better. They wish for a miracle to change their financial state or their health, or a miracle to help them find the right person in life. And I think one of the secrets in life is that moment that we stop, looking for miracles, and we choose to become a miracle, that we choose to become a miracle for other people. When we know that people are in need of kindness, of a positive gesture, of a positive action, when we start becoming miracles for other people, I think that we discover that we can create miracles for ourselves too. And as we leave this interview today, that I think is my number one thing that I would like to share with people, is to quit looking for miracles and go be a miracle.
Absolutely. Look to be a blessing to someone. Well, Shawn, I want to thank you for joining me today. And I want to tell listeners, be sure to keep up with Shawn, check out his books. Make sure after listening to this episode, follow, rate, review, tell a friend. And if you're an Android user, go to the Google Play Store, type in Living the Dream with Curveball, and download the app. Shawn, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Mr. Curveball. Create a great day and continue to do great things.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.